Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of History of Horror, where I talk to you about the evolution of iconic horror characters and their film franchises. It's been a hot minute since I did one of these, mainly because I was looking for an appropriate costume for Chucky and could not find overalls. So I apologize for the lack of accuracy in the costume in this video, but we will just have to make do. So today we're talking about Child's Play, which is the movie series that gave us Chucky, the possessed serial killer doll. And there's quite a few movies in this franchise, and I believe it was announced maybe like last week or something that they are going to be trying to do a Child's Play TV series in 2021. Now, I think it's probably going to go straight to Netflix because it's going to be a rated R series. However, we might be getting more Chucky content. So make sure you look out for that. I obviously won't be talking about that because it's not out yet. But I am going to talk about the movies that already exist in this franchise, starting with Child's Play that came out in 1988. Chucky is a serial killer who is killed by police, and his spirit is transferred into the good guy doll through a spiritual ceremony. That's the word I'm looking for. The doll is then sold to a woman who gives it to her son. Chucky kills 2 people with the little boy named Andy, and Andy ends up being sent to a mental asylum for saying that Chucky did the killings because they think he's just using the doll as an excuse and that he in fact killed people even though he is like 10. But then it is found out that Andy was not lying, and Chucky tries to find his killer because Chucky is the spirit of Chucky is trying to take the doll to find the people who killed him, but he is killed 3 times in the process, and that was supposed to be the end of the movies. So when Chucky is looking for the police officer that shot him when he was his normal serial killer human self, he ends up being killed 3 times during that process, and it was just supposed to be the end. There was never supposed to be a sequel. However, like so many of the horror movies we've talked about, there was a sequel. In 1990, our friends at Universal Studios produced a new Chucky movie. So this was 2 years after the first one, and it was supposed to be that the doll was rebranded as a PR move by the company that made the good guy dolls, to say like, hey, the doll is okay now. They're not going to come to life and kill you. That was just a one-time oopsie daisies sort of thing. So the Chucky doll that was originally killed was saved and preserved and put back together and is resold. However, like in a lot of our movies, Chucky's spirit is brought back into the doll through electrocution. And I think I've kind of tried to analyze this as a tie back to the original horror films like Frankenstein, where he is brought to life by electrocution. So all of our horror friends in the 80s were brought back to life by electrocution as well. It's kind of a nod to our pioneers of horror, if you will. So Chucky finds Andy and tries to seek revenge on him, but he is actually stopped by Kyle, who is Andy's foster sister, because he is put in foster care after the events of the first movie. And Chucky is actually shown to be turning human. So the doll itself is actually starting to have human qualities and abilities. Like he can bleed, he can get broken, which means he can also be killed like any other human. There's a big battle, and Chucky seems to be defeated in a factory with Kyle and Andy killing him. In 1991, we have Child's Play 3, which comes out it's taking place 8 years after the second movie. In this, the Chucky dolls once again are rebranded and remade, but the original Chucky is revived, and he is coming for Andy to try and kill him because he killed him and he wants revenge. But Andy is now in military school and military training, trying to get away from the life that Chucky basically has given him. However, Chucky turns his attention to another cadet at the military academy where he is. So Chucky shifts his focus to this new person, but then also decides he's just going to try and kill as many people as possible at this training facility. However, Chucky is destroyed at a carnival that is next to the training facility. I know, it's weird. I had to reread this like 14 times when I was researching it because I couldn't understand why was there a carnival next to a military base, but whatever. Andy and his friends have escaped to that carnival to try and get away to Chucky, but he finds them there and they destroy him there. However, the person that Chucky was targeting before is not given a clear fate because there's something that happens. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but there's something that happens where he basically tries to save everybody and you don't know if he lives or if he dies, like if he sacrificed himself or if he lives on. So the second and third movies were actually really different from the first, and they focused on more dark humor. The first movie was definitely like a straight up horror, just supposed to be a scary possessed doll coming to kill people. He's possessed by a serial killer. Like, how could you make that funny? Well, Universal did it. They did that brand of horror comedy where the comedy kind of lightens up the horror scenes so you're not so disturbed by them, and basically went along with this horror genre that we saw as time went on into the late 80s, early 90s, where everything got a little bit lighter and kind of broke the tension a little bit. But then in 1998, we get the movie Bride of Chucky, and this movie was actually only 89 minutes long, so it's pretty short, and I think this movie has basically been listed as kind of like a B movie. It's not one that people really remember or think about. It's more of like a cult classic. If you know it, you know it. But it was released 1 month after the third movie. So basically this movie was just waiting for the third one to be released, and then they released another one right away. And Tiffany Valentine is introduced, and I've done a Tiffany Valentine look on here. I will leave it linked, so if you want to see me do that makeup, you can. But Tiffany is actually the former girlfriend of Chucky and reassembles the doll and performs the ritual to put his soul back into the doll so that Chucky can live on because she wants him back in her life. And when she does that, Chucky kills her current boyfriend, and Tiffany gets very upset about this, so she gives him a bride doll to kind of mock him about being a doll and not being a man anymore. But Chucky kills her, and when he does, her soul goes into the bride doll, and basically the dolls go on a journey to find new human bodies for themselves. And at the end of the movie, Tiffany and Chucky are thought to be dead, but then Tiffany gives birth because at some point they procreate in the movie, and she is, even though they're dolls, she somehow gets pregnant and then she gives birth. So you can see why this movie was kind of a B movie. It just goes beyond that suspension of disbelief and gets into that really weird, like not weird in a good way for horror, but weird in a why, what am I watching kind of way. So in 2004, Seed of Chucky comes out. It was under an hour and a half long, and I feel like the shorter these movies got, the more ridiculous they got. But it's supposed to take place 6 years later, where you see Tiffany and Chucky's son Glenn is not with his doll parents, but he is a doll, and he is a puppet, and he is thought to be kind of an embarrassment, and he's kind of a joke. But he actually figures out who his parents are, and the doll, and is able to resurrect Tiffany and Chucky so he can be with his parents. Now, both the dolls vow to stop killing, however, that doesn't happen, and at some point they inseminate a human woman with Chucky's seed to have a human baby when they can get, so when they get human souls, they can have a human baby. And then it just gets really, really, really weird from there, to the point that I can't even explain it to you because I can't even make sense of it in my own mind. But Chucky sees he needs to make a change when the other baby is born, because yes, the baby is born. And this plot honestly is so confusing. There's a lot of soul jumping because they find other bodies that they can jump into, but then they kill again, and the souls just kind of bounce around from body to body to body to body. And there's like babies involved, and it's weird. So then No other Chucky movies were produced until 2013 when Universal produced Curse of Chucky, which they cut out a lot of the comedy and went right back to it being straight, gory horror and kind of trying to revive the reputation that the franchise had gotten. This one did not go to theaters. This was straight to video and is supposed to take place 9 years after Seed of Chucky. So Chucky arrives on a woman's doorstep and she is in a wheelchair and Chucky begins. The doll's past is revealed to the people who now are in possession of him and they kind of realize they have a bit of a problem on their hands. But then Tiffany appears again and she is back with Chucky, and Andy even makes an appearance after the credits scene. Now, a lot of this movie you couldn't find a lot of information on, so I think it was just more of straight horror and killing kind of stuff until 2017 when Cult of Chucky comes out, and that kind of explains a lot of what happened in the previous movie. This was set to be 4 years after the last movie, and Nika from the previous film is more of a main player, and that is the girl in the wheelchair. So Tiffany returns in this movie as well, but she is in her human form, and she visits Nika and gives her Chucky, and Chucky enters multiple bodies at once. So there is all these people who are possessed with the spirit of Chucky and basically creates a cult of them. 2019, there was another Child's Play movie, which I did not even realize one had come out so soon until I was researching. It takes a more tech approach to Chucky, so a more modernized version of the doll. There's no ritual, and Andy is a completely different character, and Chucky basically learns traits as a defect, so he is an AI in this movie. That is everything I have on Chucky and the Child's Play series. There is one more episode that I'm doing in this season of History of Horror. I do have a list of other characters that I can do. I'm just putting it out there. There might be a second season coming. It won't come for a long time though, because I want to try and make it bigger and better than this one. But the next one I'm going to do is The Purge, and that will be up later this month. So if you guys like the Purge series, stick around because I'm going to do a makeup look for that too. So if you guys like this, then make sure you subscribe. Check out my History of Horror playlist linked down below and my Tiffany Valentine look if you want to see it. I'll see you guys in the next one.